Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Man, life is very complicated. Good morning, Nasir. Hope you're having a good morning. I got kind of very little sleep last night. It was my fault. I tripped last night. And I kind of wanted to talk about how you will get what you need, not what you want when it comes to psychedelics. What I wanted out of last night was fun. What I got out of last night is some shit that I needed to work on about myself. And just, I don't know. It was interesting. Also, I still have had no time to go do what I needed to do. So I was supposed to go do some things yesterday, but with everything I'm doing and just whatever, I just couldn't, just didn't have time. I need to put more wax on this. I prefer the vape pens that are wax, where you put your own wax in there, because there's so many carts going around that are like fake carts, and just you don't know what the fuck is in those carts. So that's why I prefer just a wax pen. I just put my own shatter in there, and I know that I'm smoking shatter. But I'll be right back. Speaking of that, I gotta put more shatter in here. Well, yes, what's going on, bro? Nazir says live and direct from my workplace. That's dope. Live and direct from my bedroom. Cheers. Oh, that's better. It tastes so good. Well, I just got a message. Ooh. So, what's going on, Wise Fox? So I really don't know what to talk about. I'm kind of it's one of those mornings where I have so much I could talk about that I'm just sitting here like don't know where to start, don't know whatever. So I'm just gonna hit the pen again. That's what I should have did. The Wise Fox. The Wise Fox said, starting the day out with a workout. That's what I should have did. But today I did not because I got very little sleep, like 2 hours of sleep. So I decided to take kratom again today. And I can see how this could fall into a habit again where I'm just taking kratom, again. But I now understand so much about substances and plants and drugs and molecules and receptors that I'm just careful with myself. And I don't ever want to be attached to anything besides cannabis. Because literally, cannabis, weed, is the only thing I'm generally I'm not addicted to it because you can't be addicted to weed. That's a bullshit myth if somebody says you can be addicted to weed, because addiction is like kratom. I'm talking about actually addicted here. But I guess what I'm saying is weed is the only thing that I'll ever have this relationship with, where I use it every single day, no matter what. No matter what. Sometimes I might take weed breaks, but yeah. So can't smoke too much bud today, but got a little something in the barn. It's just kind of one of those days. I think that as a human species, we have to find out what makes us tick. And I think so many of us are expecting someone else to figure out what makes you tick. But really, you're the only one that can figure that out. Because some of the things that I've figured out about me, some of the things that I guess in a sense define me, I'm the type of guy that can get 2 hours of sleep and continue the day like I got 8 hours of sleep. I'm the type of guy that can, and I've done this for years. I'm very motivated. I'm a very whatever passionate type of dude, whatever. But this is all took work, and I've built myself to the man that I am today. And I don't know. I was just having me thinking. Every day I'm building myself. I went on a psychedelic trip last night, and some would say, "Oh my God, you're having so much fun, yada yada." But no, I sat there and cried and shattered and dealt with some shit and faced myself. And it is a constant battle of facing myself. It's a constant battle to be myself. I think that, I think this is just what I came to the conclusion of, over just analyzing things is, man, it's hard work being me. But if you become you, it'll also be hard work being you. Because to become you, the real you, that will require you to face a lot of bullshit you don't want to face. It's going to require you to just deal with so much. And that's what I'm realizing is I constantly have to deal with my shit. Yes, I trip a lot in a sense, or I guess a lot more than most people do, but it's not, there's this illusion, this disconnection thing when you have a screen, a life, and other humans that can see what someone does in their life. Because like I said, I really just trip to just grow, to advance, to become the best version of myself, and to, because in my real life, right, I'm a very, very mentally tough type of person. I speak my mind sometimes a little too damn much. I don't know how to shut up and all this other shit. So like psychedelics for me are one of the only things that can knock me the fuck out, can put me in my place, can shut me the fuck up, can tell me I'm wrong and prove it to me, and like make me cower like a little bitch in a sense. And like those, that's what psychedelics do for me. And I love that about psychedelics because like that's why I do them in a sense. You know, this is a constant battle that I am doing with my ego and consciousness so I can always remain balanced. But staying balanced, sometimes you're off balance, sometimes you're a little over balanced. But I've I just get it now. I get it that the key is to never be too hard on yourself, but be hard on yourself, but never put yourself down. There's a difference. There's a difference between being hard on yourself because you know you could do better and putting yourself down to make yourself think you can't do better. Like there's a difference. And I don't know. Yeah. That was, I guess, the main understanding I got last night from last night's trip, which is that I'm always going to be doing this. I'm going to hit 40 years old one day. One day I'll hit 50. One day I'll hit 60. And I'm still going to be doing a similar thing, which is fighting to remain me. I don't know. There's a lot of bullshit that gets in the way. If life struggles get in your way, if a bunch of chaos and bullshit get in the way that fucks up your mentality, then if you don't have enough mental strength, that chaos and bullshit around you will change you. And that's what I'm realizing is it's just about, constantly checking in on yourself. Like I call it looking in the mirror, but like it's about a constant looking in the mirror. You got to do this with your relationship. Like if your relationship is great, even if things are running great, you need to constantly look in the mirror with each other. You need to constantly check, check in, and basically check base and get this, whatever. Like it's one of those things. And I feel like you got to do that with relationships, with your job, with your happiness, with yourself, with whatever the fuck. Because your life could be going great. You could be making more money than ever. You could be doing great at your job, great at your life, great at, in your relationship. You could, be romantically doing great in your relationship, sexually, everything. But for some reason, you can just have an off feel, which then you need to go back and check in on yourself to see why you have that off feel. It's just always about going back in and checking on yourself and not expecting anyone else to do it for you. I think we all want, as a human species, when I say we, it's like we all want daddy to help us through life. So like when it comes to religion, we look at God as like the father figure trying to give us the rules and commandments and whatever the way to live life like fathers do. And but the real reality is the reason is humans are doing this is because we're lacking the ability to self-check, the understanding that God's not going to save you. Your mom and dad's not going to save you. Your friends, your family, nobody's going to save you but you. No one's going to check up on you but you. And yes, it's good to have friends check up on friends and this and that. But the problem with reality is expectations. You can't expect anyone to do anything because they're living their own life. They're trying to evolve themselves as well. They're trying to fix their own problems. Like, so yeah, don't expect people to check in on you. Check in on yourself. Keep growing and keep analyzing where you're growing. Keep analyzing where you're not growing. Analyze yourself. I think the problem is people have fear because they think this is who they will always be. So humans have this weird thing where they get defensive over their negative traits, like those negative traits serve them. They get so defensive, defending their bad habits or defending, this is just the way I've always been, defending it like it's going to help them. And reality is that defending the bad traits you picked up from childhood are the reason why you still carry those negative emotions from childhood. It's one of those things. Yeah. That was just, I guess, what I learned last night during the trip. And I was just trying to have fun. That's another thing I learned. I'm trying to have fun. And the psychedelic said, fuck your fun. And it was like, here's some reality for you. And yeah, here we are. But yep. It's definitely interesting. DMT Infinity, what's going on, bro? DMT Infinity says, bro, I literally just woke up. I'm so happy you're live streaming right now. He says, quote, overthinking and overanalyzing separates the body from the mind. Maynard James Keenan. Never heard of him, but I'm going to have to research the dude. DMT Infinity says he loves those Flower of Life threads. Talking about this. This is actually from like my homie Samina's Etsy page, Quantum Kitty. So if you went to her Quantum Kitty's Instagram, you can go to her link. The Etsy's there, and she sells these and shit. But these are really dope. I like anything that's like psychedelic inspired, or anything that's like, just reminds me of the psychedelic space. DMT Infinity says, you can either be your own worst enemy or your own best friend. Ayahuasca helped me fall in love with myself, with my own soul, as weird as that sounds. No, that don't sound weird at all. It did the same thing for me. When I took ayahuasca, it helped me re-love myself because I started to not love myself based on mistakes that I made in the past, and based on me trying to hold on to those mistakes, saying I should have did a better thing, I should have did this, I should have did that. But reality is that it's just ayahuasca really helped show me that you gotta let it go and just love yourself. Like, that's the key. DMT Infinite says, indubitably, and people needed to stop asking God for forgiveness and learn to forgive themselves. Yeah, exactly. DMT Infinity says, Quantum Kitty, hint, hint, episode 5 of a psychedelic point of view. Fuck yeah, that's gonna be dope, bro. The Wise Fox says, Listening to you while working out is so motivating. LOL. You're right about expectations. It messes with your head. Yeah, it really does. Because then if things don't go your way, like it's like a child mad about some shit. And like because you expect. It's the main problem with all things I feel like in life is expectations, relationships mainly. When you expect out of a relationship, you need to expect doubt and you need to expect disappointment. Because when you're expecting out of another human being, you're going to be disappointed because they're not you. So you can't expect them to do things like you, or like expecting loved ones to make you happy. No, that's your fucking responsibility to make yourself happy. It's, yeah. DMT Infinity says, they say don't look in the mirror while tripping, but I love looking in the mirror while tripping. I do too. So me and my girl had a trip like a week or two ago, and she was just staring in the mirror, and like we've always talked about that, how people say don't look in the mirror, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like humans just have so much fear over nothing. Like humans will just create fear for nothing. But so like looking in the mirror, tripping, you could just see the fractalness of reality, where it's like you see you, but then inside of you there's you, and inside of you there's you, and and just the fractal of reality, and it can go on infinitely. And sometimes if you stare long enough, I mean, you could start to half disappear from this world, start to like little geometrical patterns even in your eyeballs, and just crazy shit can happen, just staring in the mirror tripping balls. But DMT Infinity says, expect nothing and appreciate everything. Fuck yes. Ian Whitman, what's going on? Says, do you have any ideas on how to deal with anger and other negative feelings? Honestly, I need to make a video on that, because most people really have no idea, but growing up, and even somewhat today a little bit, like I had the most severe anger problem ever. Like my anger has been out the roof since a child. I was in anger management twice, uh, just like all that shit. So like me and anger know each other a little too fucking well, and I guess the best way to deal with it is to understand it, to understand where does the anger come from. So for my realization, for me, that I didn't want to face, is that my anger is sadness. The problem is with me is, like growing up, it was like a defense mechanism to be angry instead of sad, to use the anger as a power thing, to be like, yeah, I could sit here and cry, but I'd rather sit here and just and punch a hole in the wall, throw some things. And I had severe anger issues. But I guess the best way I've learned to deal with anger, and I guess other negative feelings, is, like I said, face them head on. It goes back to looking in the mirror, to figuring out what the hell is wrong with me. Because I like to keep check on myself to make sure I'm in balance. Because as long as I'm in balance, everyone else in my life will have the imbalanced version of me, in a sense. You can help balance people when you're balanced. If you're angry, most likely you'll make other people angry. If you're happy, you'll make other people happy. So it's like just learning to face things, see what's wrong, where does it come from. And if it's anger, I usually trace it back to, well, it's actually sadness. So why am I sad? And when I'm angry, sometimes I get to start yelling and shit, and like that, it just reminds me that, like, why do humans do that? Because they feel like they're not being listened to. And it's an angry thing, it's an angry response, but it's really sadness for not being listened to, because you feel like you're not being heard, and whatever. But like, so that's anger. But when it comes to sadness or negative feelings, I just feel them immediately. I no longer hold in my emotions. Like, I think the fake version of being strong is when you a bunch of bad shit happens to you, and you're like, I don't cry, I'm tough, and then, toughen it out, and I'm not gonna cry about this, and I'm just gonna toughen it out. I think honestly that's weakness, because that leaves cracks in your consciousness as you begin to stack a bunch of negative emotions from the sadness that happened to you. Maybe there was some anger shit that happened to you, and then something that made you mad, something that made you sad, and it's all in a week. And if you did not express those feelings in that week, you're gonna blow up either in anger, you blow up on somebody you don't even want to blow up on, because that's what I mean by stress leaves cracks in your consciousness. And what I've come to just teach myself are little things that help strengthen my consciousness, which a stronger consciousness means you have the ability to deal with your emotions better, the ability to deal with stressful situations, the ability to deal with these things if you have a stronger consciousness. So strengthen your consciousness just like you work out your muscles. You do it every day. It's a repetition. One day you might burst out in anger on accident, and it's about not getting more mad at yourself. It's about, in that moment, what you need is love and acceptance to see why did you even burst out, and it's okay, and move on and figure out a way to do better next time. And that's just all I do, because I do not have it all together whatsoever. Me and my girl still argue sometimes. Like, I still yell sometimes. I'm still a lot more I want to be such a peaceful type of fucking monk or some shit, but that's not me, because I still have some herb to me. So that anger that I still have, I use as motivation to keep me fucking focused and keep me pushing towards who I want to be and what I want to do. Even my negative feelings, like all this shit, I just use sadness, negative feelings, anger, all this shit as motivation, as fuel, like gasoline to keep pushing me forward to the next thing, DMT Infinity says, so many people fear themselves, and if that's the case, then they probably should start tripping more reasonably, though. No, I do feel like when you do fear, I think humans in general need to trip more often. I think we've built up a fear of psychedelics subconsciously without even knowing it. Even psychonauts, even people who trip balls, right? I feel like because I did it. I built up a fear of psychedelics over years of using psychedelics. Then I took a 2-year break. And then I was so terrified to get back into psychedelics after that 2-year break. But it was fear because that 2 years, my ego got to get stronger. My ego got to get bigger. I thought I was a big deal. I thought yada, yada, yada. But I do think humans need more psychedelic experiences because it'll just help us regulate. I mean, we're already on drugs anyways. Meaning if you're not drinking coffee, you're probably taking Adderall. Or if you're not taking Adderall, you're taking antidepressant or a Vyvanse, or smoking some weed, or drinking some soda which has caffeine in it. Drugs are everywhere. Just pick your poison reasonably and figure out which one serves you. These are all tools, substances, psychedelics, drugs, plants, cannabis. It's all just tools. If I could find a lighter. Ian Whitman says, thank you for your insight. Anytime, man. Thank you for your question or whatever. Because my thing is, I say it all the time. If I don't have a direction, I'm just going to talk and free talk about everything. I'm just going to ramble on and on and on. So if you guys have any questions or whatever, it kind of helps me direct my mind. Ian Whitman says, drugs are in our brain already. Yes, they are. Our brain is like a drug producing machine in a sense. If you generally analyzed it, it makes hormones, which what are body hormones? They're drugs, you know. And Witness says, I don't know why they're not as good as the outside drugs. And in a sense they are, because the funny thing about drugs is most drugs just release what your body already has. So like, smoking weed, attaches to the cannabinoid system, but then I think there's it releases dopamine, serotonin, something else, something glutamate. I don't know, but like that's just I guess how drugs work. Like MDMA is a better example, which is you take MDMA and the MDMA releases the serotonin you have. So technically, the feeling of MDMA is basically what serotonin feels like. It's basically serotonin, basically, because there's yes other more complicated mechanisms to the MDMA molecule that activate other parts of our receptors in our brains and release different things, but drugs are very interesting because you can train yourself to start releasing things on their own. But to me, it's always, I kind of follow what Terrence McKenna said, which is like, it would scare me if I just started fucking tripping balls sober. Like if I could trip without the psychedelic, it would scare the shit out of me. Like so I like the fact that we take drugs, and when the drug is out of our system, the drug wears off. you know, the fact that so many people are kind of searching, or there's always that thing where people are hardcore meditators where they're like, well, why do you use psychedelics? Why not just meditate? Or because this is a completely different thing. It's not, it can be in the same thing, but a really, really, really light psychedelic experience is like a meditation. But a real psychedelic experience is a mind fuck. Geek Links, what's going on? Says I'm on Delta 8 gummies. Yo, bro, how is that? Well, yeah, says how is Delta 8? Yeah, exactly. Because we've been talking about it and trying to do some research about it, but I can't really find much about the effects. Like, is it compared to Delta 9 and Delta 8? Like, could you explain the difference a little bit? Like, is there a difference? Yeah. Oh, you said okay. Okay. So don't expect to get blasted. Okay, Delta 8 is pretty nice, but it isn't Delta 9. Okay, so is it like a milder, it's like a milder THC in a sense? Hold up. This shit is clogged. DMT Infinity says, if quote unquote enlightened people who meditate and have these experiences have to even ask that, then I doubt that they're even where they claim to be psychologically. I kind of agree with you. Now I have had visual meditations sober. Sober. Like I'm always smoking weed, so like, as sober as I am, as sober as I could be. But the type of closed eye visuals I've had are nothing like real psychedelics. And so yeah. Geeklink says converts to Delta 11 when ingested orally is 25% less potent than Delta 9 when orally ingested, but the feeling is like a mild form of THC as if you combine CBD with it. Okay. So I love this is why I love fucking chemistry, bro. I love molecules and shit. The fact that when you eat THC, whether it's Delta 9 or Delta 8, it still turns into, something else. Yeah. Ian Whitman says, is Delta 8 like legal THC replacement? I mean, kind of. Delta 8 was, I guess, in a sense, recently discovered in the hemp plant. It's a molecule that is very similar to THC because THC is Delta 9 THC. And it's just a slightly different molecule, but because it's in hemp and derived from hemp, it's completely legal in all 50 states. And you could buy like cards, you could buy the pure like oil, the the Delta 8 oil, and I haven't tried it yet, but I guess I'm just gonna have it just to have on hand because I always smoke Delta 9, not just real weed. But yeah. Geeklink says, so going off of yesterday, I told you I was working with demons as well. Well, I was talking to my girl and there were 3 very loud knocks on my headset, almost pissed myself. I believe that they are light beings just fucking with me. I mean, that could be it. Or it could just be, it could be a lot of things. Reality is very complex. The fact that basically, in a sense, our reality is a bunch of dimensions layered on top of each other, and that is life, the thing we call life. And yeah, we're in the 3rd dimension, but if this is the 3rd dimension, there's most likely more dimensions ahead of us and a few dimensions behind us. And so it's like we're in the middle and everything's fractaled and complex and complicated. So what I'm saying is sometimes I feel like what ghosts are or interactions like that are just dimensional interference where it's like there was like an accidental dimensional interference, just like if you're on a radio station and you're at, I don't know, 98.5, if you change it to 98.4, you're still going to hear the thing on 98.5. It's just going to be a little staticky. You're going to get interference from the next one. And yeah, I think our realities are similar to that, which is, kind of, I feel like account to some of the ghostly encounters we have, some of the paranormal experiences we've had. And, I've had some paranormal weird things happen, but like I say, I in a sense, just chop it down to being dimensional interference. If I feel like a light being is helping me or the universe is helping me in a sense, that's where things like what happened this week kind of happen, which is like, well, my girl got a job and then I end up getting, most likely I'm going to get this CBD trimming job again. I start trimming CBD flower again. And it's just that the universe tends to have my back when I let go. So that's when I start to feel like the universe is conspiring for me to help me in some weird shit. But DMT Infinity says, call me old school, but I'm just satisfied with a bong and some good bud. LOL. Mark, what is the best strain of weed you've ever smoked, and what is cannabis to you in your day-to-day life? I like your questions, bro. You always got some like deep but like thought out questions. I guess see I kind of agree with you. I just like weed, but I love shatter and wax and extracts and the different flavors and all that other shit too. But the best weed strain I've ever smoked, It's gotta be. See, I don't want to be typical. So there was either. So I had not all Girl Scout cookies is like this because I live in an illegal state, so it's hit or miss. But there was this time where I knew a dude that was getting weed from Colorado, and it was getting shipped in from Colorado, vacuum sealed and all that. So like this, when that was happening, I was getting the best weed that I've ever had. So I had a Gorilla Glue from that batch of weed, and that was the best tasting Gorilla Glue, the best high, the cleanest high, the fucking, I don't know how to explain it. Now, remove all the strains and all that. Honestly, I could say nowadays my favorite thing to do is just to dab or to take an edible, so I can just get the full effect of the weed. but but I don't know what cannabis is to me in my day to day life is cannabis is in a sense like the vitamin. I don't know. It's like vitamin C to me. Um, and I guess the reason why cannabis is like vitamin C to me is because, you know, it helps me in so many different ways, more than just getting me quote unquote high. I've developed a weird spiritual relationship with cannabis over the years. I mean, it was the first substance I ever really dived with at all. I first smoked cannabis when I was 11, tried it for the first time. Then I didn't smoke it again until I was like 13 or so, and then I didn't smoke it again until I was 15, and then from 15 on I've been smoking weed almost every day, and I've taken a few breaks here and there over the years, but yeah, cannabis is my right hand spiritual helper because it's always there and always has my back. Ian Whitman says, I chose chem as an elective in high school but failed. If I had took chemistry or anything in high school, I would have failed it all too. I'm smart at this shit now, but I was not even interested in this shit back when I was in high school. Ian Whitman says, I love dimension and spiritual talk. Me too, bro. I can get lost in conversations like that. But in a sense, I live for conversations like that. Some of the best conversations I've ever had are when me and somebody else are just going in on reality, dimension, spirituality, just, uh, get glimpse. Bro, you sound like you be diving deep. Because, like you said, the reason why I communicate with Gushin, who is the Grand Duke of Hell, is because I met him in a DXM slash edibles trip, and he said his name, and I got visions of him turning into a light being and not being able to control his power. I looked him up, and the Godia, which is a guide. Oh, okay, which is a guide to ritual magic and invoking spirits, demons, and giving them their archetype and rank. Ever since communicating with him, strange things have been happening to me. By the way, not diagnosed with schizophrenia. I think schizophrenia is misunderstood, anyways. So, like, I think it's one of those things where schizophrenia is just another dimensional interference problem where human consciousness is a lot more complicated than we can grasp. DMT Infinity says spirits cannot intrude into your life unless you give them permission. Exactly. And some psychedelics are summoning tools to summon multidimensional entities such as DMT. And I would agree with that 100%. And I would say that I was doing that without even me knowing, without me having any knowledge of spirituality. When I was first smoking DMT, I would always talk about how, I met Mother Ayahuasca from smoking DMT a bunch of times. And like now it's to the point where when I smoke DMT, I can direct my DMT experience where I want to go in the DMT space based on my thoughts in my head. So if I want to call out Mother Ayahuasca in my head while I'm on while I'm on DMT, then in a sense I can summon her to me. I can bring her to me. I can invite her in. Um, and it's just one of those things. That's something I've learned to do. But I don't know. I don't like working with dark entities too much, or like every time I've done DMT and there's ever been like a negative spirit or a dark entity or something like that, it's like they're always scared to come near me. Like they will not come near you if you're sitting there like love, light, and happiness and bright as fuck. They're gonna be like, dude, get away from me type shit. Um, the light scares off the dark. So it's like that's why I just tend to work with beings like Mother Ayahuasca, or there's beings where I wouldn't say I even know their names. So, like I don't know their names. I just know that if I smoke DMT right now and I came across a light being, if I've came across it before, I would know. I would know. I would register that. Oh my God, that is that light being that I seen that one trip, like 2 years ago type shit. Which has happened to me, a few times. Whereas like I've done DMT, met a light being, smoked DMT, like hundreds of times in the middle of that, never seen that light being again. Then smoked DMT 101 times after that, and then I see that light being again. It's a weird thing, but Geekling says the Wiccan religion used Mandrake and Belladonna. um, that's why I'm really into like Wiccan and paganism and shamanism and all this shit, because they're all connected. It's all branch offs of shamanism in a sense, like Wicca and paganism. But there's just like Mandrake and Belladonna because they contain scopolamine. I'm just something I'm not really interested in. Yeah, it's basically Datura, Mandrake, Belladonna, and Datura. They're all basically the same thing. Basically. Ian Whitman says, I looked up Gushin and got 2 YouTube notifications. I might be high as hell, but that was kind of eerie. That is kind of eerie. I'm not going to look it up, guys. Geekling says dark entities only bring light. It is explained in the don't know what that is. If you want, I have 120 books on the occult, including the. Bro, that's awesome though. That you're really into this shit. That's really dope. Like, I have a friend Doug who's like grandfather was into shamanism. So like I got into shamanism based on internet and research. He got into shamanism because the grandfather was teaching it to him at a young age, and he knew about the old shamanism type shit. He had a bunch of books and. I've been interested in the occult as well. I guess my thing is though, psychedelics kind of took over my whole obsession. Psychedelics and shamanism, I guess, in my own like self-taught shamanism, but DMT Infinity says, during a 600 microgram LSD trip, this beautiful entity that never revealed itself to me, but stayed right behind me like a guardian angel, but it did reveal its wings to me. Its wings are like gold. They're like golden light, and that entity hasn't left me throughout all of these years and is still by my side. I love and appreciate my guardian angel. Honestly, I've come to them. I feel that same way with I wish I had another name for it, Mother Aya, Mother Ayahuasca. But like, ever since doing ayahuasca, I felt like she's never left me. Last time I just smoked DMT, that was my DMT trip that I had. That it was showing me, reminding me that it's always there. It's always guiding me. Those moments where it seems like an impossible obstacle is in my way, and then somehow, some way, that impossible obstacle gets removed out the way. It reminded me that those moments are it. Like that's when the universe really, when things are really working out, and like it was just showing me like it's got my back, and humans forget that your guardian angel, in a sense, we all have different quote unquote guardian angels or whatever you want to call it. But regardless, I do think that we can have help from the higher realms, if you know how to ask and you know how to receive the help. Um, yeah. The Wise Fox says, over the past few years, I learned a lot about witchcraft, ancestor work, and mentalism. I guess me too. Ian Whitman says, I don't even know how I could describe my strongest acid trip without everyone thinking I'm making it up. I mean, that's a lot of psychedelic experiences. The one thing I really that really grinds my gears. What really grinds my gears? When humans doubt other people's psychedelic experiences just because they've never gotten to that point. Um, because then it's just one of those things. It's just irritating. It just grinds my gears. You know, because it used to happen with Terrence when I used to listen to Terrence. Some people would be like, it sounds like bullshit. But like, why the fuck would this man? Why would any of us admit to these crazy fucking stories if it wasn't reality? Like, these are some fucking off the wall, make us look batshit crazy type of stories. These aren't stories that necessarily make us look very sane in the mind and whatever, but it's just reality. DMT Infinity says, I think what we call Mother Ayahuasca and what we call Mother Nature is actually one and the same, but these are two different words for the same spirit. I agree. I just think we kind of adopted the term Mother Nature uh, based on separating from using psychedelics. As the human species stopped using psychedelics as a whole, um, we started more looking towards Mother Nature as magic, as some magical Mother Nature is, whatever, instead of we've kind of forgotten where the magic comes from, that we can actually meet Mother Nature, we can actually become friends with her and learn from her, and you know Geek Link says we all have psychic abilities. They're in the form of chaos magic, meaning you are inadvertently affect things and people around you. No, I agree. No, I think that because we're all one, because everything is connected and consciousness is this thing that like the observer is the only reason reality exists at all, based on quantum physics. So like it's the reason why the placebo effect works. It's the reason why all this shit works is because we have this so much influence on our reality, which is why I stress to everyone I know the most important thing that you can learn on this planet is to learn how to change your mind. If you can learn how to change your mind, you can master your life, your mind, your happiness, your whatever. Because the mind is everything. Well, I'm going to hit this bong. Cheers. Fuck. How the fuck is this shit still clogged? Bro. One of those moments. Well, like, holy shit. Most clogged bong ever. I think it's time to clean this shit. Oh. Ian Whitman says, when was your last hard trip? Last night. So, yeah. 10 hours ago, like 8 hours ago, I was tripping major balls, dealing with a lot of shit, crying, upset because what I wanted to get out of the psychedelic experience last night, I ended up getting it out of anyways, but like, it was one of those things where all I wanted to do was trip, have a good night, then smoke, enjoy the rest of the night, wake up, whatever. But all it did was force me to face things, punch me in the fucking face. And yeah. But I like to keep hard trips close. I think there's an issue, like I said, in the psychedelic community, where humans are just growing scared of psychedelics because, there's this thing where people talk about integration. But like, bro, what the fuck are you doing if it's taking you 5 years to integrate one psychedelic experience? I feel like you're taking too many lazy days or too many days off, and you're not working hard enough to get this shit integrated in you fast enough. Just psychedelic teaches you things. Yes, it might take you some contemplating and some like holy fuck, what the hell did I just go through? What do I need to work on type shit? But like, some people be talking about, they'd be integrating for 5 years, and I'm like, you're still integrating it just sounds like you didn't put the work in to have it stick, because it's all about work. The hardest work with psychedelics is the day after. It's Are you just going to look at it like, oh, that was a wild trip, move on? There's lessons learned, and but you just like whatever. And that's why a lot of people be like, I'm still integrating 5 years later, because like, you know, it's just one of those things where I think it's not that integration takes time, it's that people don't take enough time to integrate. I don't feel like integration really takes as long as we think. I just don't think humans are taking enough hours in a 24-hour day to generally integrate. Like, how many hours in a day do people integrate after their psychedelic experience? And when you ask people things like that, it's like you come to find out people usually only spend minutes, not hours, on generally contemplating what the fuck they're going to do with their life and who they are and why they think the way they think and what they do. And a lot of times, this is why I spend like my meditations. My meditations aren't always so a lot of times my meditations are integrations where there are moments in time where I am just integrating what I've learned so I can boom have another one. I guess it's just because I like to have a lot of psychedelic experiences. So like if I'm gonna continuously have a psychedelic experience, then next week I'm gonna have another psychedelic experience, then next week I'll have another one. And because they keep being mind blowing and I keep learning, I like to make sure I'm integrating what I'm learning. But I also keep myself on a timer. I just don't think people have enough self-discipline. And when it comes to psychedelics, I just feel like you require self-discipline to genuinely apply what it's teaching you. Psychedelics are like a hack, but it's not a magic pill because it does take the work to apply what it taught you. Like me personally, I didn't trip for 2 years, but nobody would have known. Everyone still thought I was still tripping in a sense because, the knowledge is there. The application is there. I became a walking, talking psychedelic experience based on what the experiences were teaching me. One of the first lessons was self-discipline that I learned from smoking DMT. So like I learned that if I apply self-discipline from 2014, and then I apply that to everything else I'm doing, like the integration, the keeping myself on a time limit thing, making sure I don't spend too much time or waste too much time taking my time. Because there's this weird paradox with time that one paradox is that we have all the time in the world to do what we want to do because what's the rush? We're young. The other paradox of the other side of that is that you could die tomorrow, and that, why wait to do your thing? Why not do it now? Why not get your shit done as fast as possible? Why not, is my point of view. And, I'm 26, so I want to be, when I'm 30, I want to be like, I just have, the only time I expect in reality, because I was talking about earlier how expectations, fuck us all up. But the only time I expect is I expect out of myself. I'm very self-disciplined and very whatever the fuck, because like I expect a lot out of myself because I know how much I can handle. I know what I can do. So like for me, I expect myself to do things a little faster than maybe other people do. And there's nothing wrong with taking your time with integrating or taking your time with life, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having kids and waiting until you're 35 to have children. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of life preference. And in my personal life preference is I'd rather now than later type shit. Faster the better. I guess that is really why I also love hearing bad shit about me. Yeah, like people hate it when people talk shit about them. Like I love it when people talk shit about me. It informs me. Like it's one of those things. Oh, always getting behind. Geekling says last night I tripped on DXM and DPH. Fuck yeah, bro. I'm actually thinking about exploring with DXM. Again, I might end up getting some like pure DXM. So I was just thinking about exploring with that because I wanted to try ketamine, but I can't get ketamine. But I'm like, well, I can get DXM, so I might as well explore with that, see what that's like. And considering that was one of my first drugs, but I was like microdosing with it in a sense, not because I was just drinking the cough syrup and whatever. But since I'll actually have the real DXM, I'll be able to actually measure the dosage and all this other shit. So it'll be a lot more of a cleaner experience as well. Um, DMT Infinity says, have you ever had an edible experience so strong that you had a borderline psychedelic experience? If so, what was the dose and what was the experience like? Honestly, every single edible experience I've ever had is like that, and that's why I take edibles. But like usually, what I do is this is just a little bit. It's just a little bit. With that little bit of wax in there, whatever. Um, what I'll do is I'll either decarb the wax or just melt it into, some milk and, drink it down. Maybe mix it with a little bit of weed in there too to just balance the edible. But almost every edible experience I have is psychedelic like. The higher the dose, the better. And I'm genuinely a guy that I don't like to use the word promotes, but I promote higher doses because I think if it's not going to kill you, why the fuck not? With THC, what's very interesting that I've noticed, so my girl, right, she can outsmoke me like no tomorrow, right? Like when it comes to weed, she can sit here and outsmoke me. Bong for bong, she'll outsmoke me. Dab for dab, I'll outsmoke her. And edible for edible, I'm like, I fucking love edibles. Because what's interesting with her, so she gets like the edible anxiety at the really high doses. So at like 600 milligrams THC and above, so a 0.6 of wax plus like a gram of weed put into an edible. That's usually how I make my edibles because I like to have a little bit of weed as well. But so anywhere from a 0.6 to a gram of wax is like for me the more psychedelic like thing. And for me personally, it has to be wax or shatter or something like that. That's a cannabis concentrate. And then you measure it out the 0.6. And then you take your gram of weed, and then I brew the gram of weed into the usually I'll have milk boil, milk, gram of weed, and the wax. Stir that shit in, stir the wax in until it melts into the milk, and then I wait about 2-3 hours, sometimes 4 hours depending, and then I strain it out and drink it. And it's in a sense, psychedelic experience. Now, my favorite thing is honestly like a 0.9 to a gram, because then, when you take like a 0.9 to a gram of wax, and then, you have a gram of weed in the edible, and then you do that then it becomes very psychedelic like, and that's like when my girl will start to get like weed anxiety. And when we did that the last time, she thought she was dying, like it, like genuinely she was on the couch, like thought she couldn't breathe and thought whatever. I was just kind of laughing, explaining like it's just the weed anxiety, you know, if you fall asleep you'll be fine. But you know, but yeah, but I hope you guys have an awesome day. I might live stream in a little bit, but I gotta just go take care of some things, and I'll be back. But yeah.